Rut-row raggy.
Rut-row indeed, Ramuel. What's going on?
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance on this fine evening, Maxwell. And in our lovely city of Brisbane, it's dropped below 20 degrees, which means I've got the pants and hoodie.
Got the longs, got the hoods. Last week you were similar hood,
Yeah.
but the pins were right out.
The pins were out, and it was a little bit misleading, you know?
Misleading.
Am I cold? Am I
Yeah,
not?
it was
the shorts and the
confusing.
hoodie is such a Queensland thing.
Mm.
But it's been a busy week. We've both attended gigs.
Gig City.
And it's been a busy fortnight, really. We've seen a lot of international artists.
Bit on in little. No, adjust
No,
that.
because this arm's... I'm sitting up fucking Harry High arm.
A posture. Wow, I can't talk. Posture, Sam, should be much better.
As should your pronunciation, Maxwell. Yes. We did have all those literacy classes early in our childhood.
Exactly, and I failed all of them.
You did, but that's okay. Don't let that get in the way of your progress.
I still don't have a pen license.
I don't think I do either.
Ooh, well, we're both unlicensed here.
I think we are.
We're potting unlicensed. If the fucking 5-0 swing by, we're fucked.
Are you okay?
Many have questioned. I'm just going to put this a bit closer. Yeah, there
just
you go.
going to put it a little bit closer to my...
Your dulcet tones, Sam.
Yes,
Yeah.
but on that professional note, something new this week, Maxwell. Let's get straight into it.
Yeah, throw it at me.
You saw one of the Direction boys.
I went in one direction. That's to Boondall, Sam, to see Niall Horan. And I'll tell you what, spoiler alert, belter of a gig. Real good. And I went in kind of not knowing what to expect. I got the tickets mostly for my lovely girlfriend, who is a bit of a fan, bit of a Niall Horan fan.
That's such an ick.
I think what I'm going to say is that's so romantic. And you dropped the first part of that word and you just had ick at the end, so it's a bit weird. Romant would be the bit that you missed.
Romantic.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when did One Direction form? 2010?
Whenever Simon formed them.
Yeah, so 2010, so what's that, 14 years of
Niall.
being told how to fucking be a showman. He's got it down pat. He's got
You'd hope so.
good pipes. He's got good stage presence, good audience banter. All these tracks are kind of classic rock vibes. The pre-show they do Fleetwood Mac and ABBA and Joan Jett and that kind of stuff. And then he rips into his set. It's bloody awesome. He did his first shoey. That was a bit of a
me moment there.
did his first shoey ever, which is actually pretty impressive to see him just ripped one out, poured the old Bolter Cerveza straight into that bad boy, into the lefty, I believe, and just fucking downed it. But
I don't know how I feel about them.
About an international shoey.
Yeah, just a shoey in general. I feel like...
I've done plenty in my time.
I reckon I've done one.
You've done one.
I think it's a little bit overhyped.
I mean, I did also drink in a bad game of King's Cup at your birthday one year. I drank soy sauce, I believe it was.
Soy sauce mixed with sweet chili, I believe.
Yeah, it wasn't fun because the rest was vodka. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to Niall. I think I'm going to go out there. I reckon maybe except Harry Styles, best One Direction solo career. His songs are... There's a couple that were a bit slower and soppier that are mostly off his new album. But then there was one track that I'm gonna have to pull up the playlist. I'm gonna pull up my phone to see which one it was. But there was one track that was it could have been "Boys of Summer" by Don Henley.
Great song,
and he gave it an absolute nudge. The band was so good, his backing band.
Niall Horan and far out.
I'll let you.
I'm going to try that one again.
Yeah.
But now it's not going to be funny. Was it Niall Horan in the horn section?
That it could have been the Horan section.
The Horan.
I believe the one that I was thinking of is "If You Leave Me," or maybe it's the show.
Maybe it's both.
Maybe
you enjoyed both.
It's from the album The Show.
This is the greatest show.
Opened with "Nice to Meet Ya" and closed with "Slow Hands," which they were the two big singles from his solo stuff. You'd probably know "Nice to Meet Ya." It was kind of, it took off.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Where you been?
Not quite, but that
was close.
But yeah, dropped a Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks cover in, and unfortunately we watched a young girl next to us Shazam that, which was quite sad to see.
Yeah, that is quite sad.
I felt like leaning over and saying it's actually Bootylicious by Destiny's Child, but
London Bridge, Fergie.
I think she would have not gotten the
The irony.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I would if like I went in not really knowing what I was going to get. Coming out, I'd definitely go back. Like if I had my time again, knowing all this, I'd be back in for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And can we talk about how annoying it is getting out of a big concert?
Yeah, Boondall always a bit of a time. Especially I drove. It was a Sunday night. It was a school night. So I drove and it did take us the better part of probably half an hour to get out of our car park, which was next to the door.
Yeah.
So
well, I've got a bone to pick.
Please.
The perfect day for a gig.
Yep.
Because I feel like it's either prime. There's 2 days. There's a 2-day window where it's prime. And then there's 5 other days where it is...
He's good at maths.
Not ideal. Yeah. 5 plus 2 is 7. Maths A. But...
Maths, eh?
Maths. Hey. But I feel like if it's a Friday or Saturday night, you're already going to have a good time at the gig because you can have a late night, you wake up, and you got another day to roll on.
Yep.
Sunday through to a Thursday gig. I'll say Sunday through a Wednesday gig.
Thursday night's a pretty good night for a gig.
I was going to say, that's why I went Sunday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah.
I'm second guessing going to the gig if it's a Sunday through a Wednesday.
Here's the thing. Okay, I agree with you on the surface of it.
Yeah.
But I think as a bigger problem, I think that's part of the problem with especially Queenslanders, but Australians in general, is that Monday through, let's say Thursday, are a write-off. No one does anything on those days. And like, we're giving away like 5 out of 7 a week that we're not doing. Like, I feel like bring back those nights. You know?
Student night. Wednesday night, student night.
But you don't like, sure, I think maybe the difference is we're not staying out till like 2 a.m. But like, maybe shift your gigs an hour earlier on a school night.
I was talking about that.
Yeah.
I was talking about that to my girlfriend the other night because we went and saw Black.
Yep.
Or Six Lack for those who know the name
for the
but not
SEO.
the pronunciation.
Yeah.
And we were saying it's tough for these international headliners who don't necessarily have the full run of like 2 or 3 bands or artists opening for them. They bring one main support, but the doors will open at 7.
Yep.
Sometimes the entertainment centre.
They're at 5.
They're at 5, but the first artist isn't until 8.
Yeah.
So you've got a minimum hour before gap between doors and artist, and then they play for half an hour. But then the main artist still doesn't come on till 9:15. They play for an hour and a half. You're not out till 10:30, 10:45.
Yep.
And I mean 11 is curfew, but still it's too late on a Sunday. I've got a life a life that I need to afford.
Well, Niall kicked off at 8:30.
Oh, that's elite.
And was wrapped almost bang on 10. Like he had a 90-minute set that included probably a 10-minute crowd banter seg, a built-in. The band gets a break.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, that's when he did his first shoey, and he played paper scissors rock with a girl in the audience. He had a chat with the girl to see if she wanted to quit her job. Like he was like good and interactive with the fans.
Great if you're that person, but boring to the 15,000 other people.
Well, here's the thing. I think because he's been doing this for so long, he's pretty good at like keeping the rest of the crowd engaged.
Yeah, true.
Like he does a bit of like, should this girl quit her job? Let's get a fucking cheer kind of thing.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, like it. I think like one of those probably like Robbie Williams when you saw him a couple of weeks ago.
Couple of months ago.
Yeah, weeks. What a weeks and
the
months. The other day. Just like a good entertainer, like a professional showman who kind of knows what to do, how to get the crowd excited.
Knows his role, plays his role, executes his role.
Yeah, exactly. He do it right, do it once, kind of thing.
Yeah. Work smart, not hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look left, look right, look left again.
Yeah.
Get hits by the
stop, drop, and roll.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll quickly churn through mine.
Tell me about Black.
Well, yeah, because I went to Black.
Yeah.
He was at the Fortitude Music Hall, which seems to be where every band and artist in Brisbane or coming to Brisbane are playing at the moment.
It's a hot prop.
It's a hot prop. It's been a bloody age since I've been to the Triffid or the Tivoli and every band that starts at the Tiv gets upgraded anyway. So anyway, back at the Fortitude Music Hall.
Yeah.
Saw Black. If you don't know who he is, he's sort of like this. So I wouldn't say he's soppy, but he's like a heartfelt R&B artist who he's done features with T-Pain. You might know him for On My Way with Khaled, that song.
I'll trust you on it.
I'll be outside. I'll be on my way.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, nice. I Otherwise, worse luck. You might not. You don't know.
Anyway. I think the only song that I know, I believe it was an artist called Duckworth who had a feature with him.
He's a slut for a feature.
Loves a feature.
Loves a feature.
I'm going to double check that while you're talking.
Loves a feature more than a gambling addict. Bang, that was good. But anyway, we went. We were expecting, with an artist like him, you expect a little bit of a low and slow vibe, but that they'd intertwine, his faster songs into his set list, and he didn't.
Really?
It was very slow.
Very, mellow.
Very mellow. There was no oomph added to the live sound. He had a live drummer, a live bassist, and a DJ.
Okay.
But you know how sometimes R&B artists will add more bass or more fills or a little bit more instrumentation to their song live that gives it a bit more energy?
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah, right.
We didn't make the encore.
Really? Well, I mean, you famously hate an encore.
Hate an encore. Don't try and pull the wool over my eyes. You haven't even turned your fucking guitar off.
Anyway. So would you say it was not a good show?
I'd say it was a good show. He was a great singer. But when you're standing up, like if I was seated, I'd stay there the whole bloody 9 yards. But I was standing up, my feet were starting to hurt, and I wasn't able to sway or get into it.
Just because of who you are as a person?
Just because I was standing with my arms crossed, obviously, at the back. Don't have fun around me. Fuck off. But overall, it's a good show, but could have been more energetic.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Would I see him again? Probably not.
Yeah, right. I think exact opposite for me and Niall Horan.
Yeah.
Where I went in not knowing what to expect, not knowing the energy level. And I'll tell you what, it's no surprise that it was packed full of young women. People who were in their teens or people who were in their teens 10 years ago when One Direction were at their peak. And this is not in any way demeaning or anything like that. It's very that's the crowd, and
they bring a lot of energy.
Well, they bring a lot of energy. They're screaming, and it is loud. I have not been in a concert that's that loud in a long time.
SZA was the same,
and it was it's hard to not kind of get into the vibe.
It reaches a decibel level, and then you go deaf.
Yeah, but when as soon as he came out, the screaming was off the chart. He launched into the set. He's done this a million times. He knows you got to ride that first wave straight into the first song and don't stop for 2 or 3 songs. Just keep it going. And by the time that happens, you're like, I'm in. The energy is high.
It's fun.
And we're getting there. The people around me are already up and dancing, jumping around. It's hard to not be in that vibe.
Well, if you're not up, as soon as they come out, it's pretty much everyone's up.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then what's the point of being there?
Yeah. Which means to me, those are two very different gig energies.
Very much so. I was standing up wanting to sit down.
Yeah.
Then I got in trouble for trying to sit in the disabled area.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was the disabled area. And then I'll tell you a story, because there was this woman. She was probably early 30s, strutting her stuff, full of plastic and...
Feeling herself.
Full of plastic, beers, and a good time.
Yep. Yeah.
But she had some heels on, and she decided to sit down, slipped past the security guard. He didn't notice. And he came over and said, "Excuse me, this is a disabled seat." And she goes, "I am disabled."
Oh, no.
And he goes, "No, you're not." She goes, "I am. I've got a disability. My feet hurt."
Oh, no.
Why won't... And she went on a tirade, rinsed this poor security guard doing his job. She goes, "Why won't you let me sit down? There's so many spare seats. Why the fuck? Can you just fuck off?" And the security guard looks at her blankly in the eyes and just goes, "Calm down."
Always a good start.
And then he walked off. I'm like, if I was your superior, that is your cue. Out the back line. But I just don't understand.
The George Greger, the dive pass.
Yeah. There's just no need to be rude to security guards who aren't being rude, who aren't being aggressive. They're just informing you that this area is reserved for people that actually can't stand up for a show.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Anyway, that was a pet peeve. I don't like that. Don't be rude to people who aren't being rude to you.
This is true. As we always say, if you're at a gig, don't be a...
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't be a C. I don't like that word, but I just say, don't be a... Thanks for bleeping me.
I'm not going to bleep you. I'm just going to leave you. I might even zoom in on your hand doing this.
Don't be a flipping idiot, you dork.
Don't be a silly goose.
Anyway, before we roll into our key topic of the night, I have a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Is Jojo Siwa legit?
Oh,
Because she's either so far off the scale that she has no self-awareness,
yeah.
or she's the most committed I have ever seen to satire.
To the bit.
Yeah, to the bit. Which at the moment is the trend. Some people just commit so hard to the cringe because they get the views, they get the attention.
It is hard
but
to watch.
It's all satire.
Yeah.
But it is so hard to watch. The videos are coming everywhere. Karma's a bitch. Like,
I think,
I don't get it.
you know what? I don't think it matters. Like, either way, it's working.
Yeah, because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And I have never...
She's everywhere, and people are listening to the song, and I'm like, I don't like the song, but I have listened to it a few times. And I'm like, no, just to be like, what's the go? You know what I mean? Like the intrigue got me in, and I don't like it, but I'm like,
dream guest on my podcast?
like I needed to know because it's too much. But
And now that you've listened to the song, I still haven't listened to it. I only know like the 10-second segment I've seen
on like TikTok, or
on
whatever.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Now that you've listened to the full song, is Karma in fact a bitch?
I mean, I just like, I'm all for like her having her like, you know, empowered moment where she's like breaking free of like her, like, you know,
It's the biggest change we've ever seen in music.
her commercial like teen thing. Okay, here's the thing, right?
This is, for everyone watching, this is you searching for something nice to say.
I'm not. No, it's not even nice to say. I feel a bit sorry for her in a way of like,
Yeah.
like she was like a kid when she was like put through this. It's this whole like thing, and then she's trying to like break out of that by doing the same thing, but just like the rock and roll version. You know what I mean? Like,
Hang on, smell that.
like at least when Miley Cyrus did it, it was like fucking. She went full wrecking ball and just went into it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is like the same thing, but with a different hat. And I'm like, oh, or as you say, maybe it's just awesome satire. Which either way, I don't think it matters.
If it's awesome satire, I'll sit here and be like, hats off to you, well played. But part of me and a lot of me thinks that it's not.
Maybe, I mean, benefit of the doubt. Yeah, maybe benefit of the doubt. The official 78 amped position is hats off, Jojo.
I mean, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
That's true. It's working.
It's working. But fuck me. But yeah, I'm glued to my screen because every time she's on my phone, I'm like, I think I'm going to want to throw my phone out a window.
It's hard to watch. Either way, it's hard to watch. Like in the same way that like the UK Office is funny but hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, anyway,
You know what's hard to watch but really funny?
what's that?
Watching people trip over.
Throwback to Battlesnake. If you're not a long time listener, go back to our episode about gig etiquette.
If you've ever seen a bloke fall continuously for 10 seconds. Oh, I love it. Anyway, let's get serious, shall we?
Let's get serious. I wanted to ask you a question. A question that's been plaguing my mind, Sam, for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that went up my nose.
Oh, just
Fizzy. Very fizzy.
it really sounds like you're doing coke on the podcast, but you're doing Pepsi. I want to know, like, what do you reckon is the sound of the 2020s? We're in 2024. We're nearly halfway through the decade. And I want to ask you what you think, like, the defining sound, even of the first half of this decade, is or has been.
It's a good question because I don't think there is one yet.
Right.
Which is, I know what we're going to talk about, but
I'm with you a little bit.
It seems that there just isn't... I saw this come up. A few people started talking about it because there just is no defining sound.
Yeah.
It feels like there's not even... In previous decades, you've got a cluster... Like, you've either got a genre or a cluster of artists or at least three that you can hang your hat on and be like, they were the biggest artists of that decade.
Yeah.
2010s to 2020s, you'd say Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
You'd say, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, the early 2010s, I reckon it was, like, the weirdness of, like, bubblegum pop.
Yeah.
But then, like, the extreme of, like, hardcore EDM, like, you know,
Yeah,
dubstep
like
and, like,
Skrillex
trap
came
and stuff.
in, did
and
his
they kind
thing.
of did this weird merge.
Yeah.
And so you had, like, weird, like, Kesha featuring on, like, 303 songs and stuff like that was really strange. But it was like, and you know, around, like it was off the back of that easy indie sleaze kind of thing. But
yeah,
and then the late 2010s, you had like emotional, like
that's when the TikTok music started coming in.
SoundCloud rappers and
Mumble rap.
Yeah, mumble rap and like
I don't know. Yeah,
even the pop stuff like Lorde and Billie Eilish and stuff were like really emotional and like laid back and stripped back in the music.
Yeah, and even though Billie Eilish has come through and she's a big player in the 2020s, I still don't think when you think 2020s music, you don't think Billie Eilish, you don't think Ed Sheeran.
No,
I'd say there's probably two prominent ones at the moment, and that for me is Taylor Swift.
Yep.
And then I think SZA is becoming that.
Yep.
Because you've got extreme Swifties who listen to bubblegum pop that's inoffensive and boring.
Yeah.
And then you've got a little bit of the edgier pop side of things with SZA.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think there's, apart from maybe, but I'd say Taylor Swift's up here and SZA's climbing.
Yeah.
But she's not there yet.
Yeah.
There's just no one that's really making a huge...
But I mean, even if you take it, like those, Taylor Swift and SZA, Taylor Swift isn't doing anything, I mean, like musically groundbreaking.
Oh,
like,
no.
In the sense that a Taylor Swift song from the last 3 albums is not that dissimilar to a Taylor Swift song from the 3 albums before that.
Yeah.
And same with SZA, like, she's a great artist and she's making great music, but like...
Well, she's just evolving her sound that was in the 2010s anyway.
But I wouldn't even say it's that much of an evolution. It's just like, it's pretty straightforward R&B based pop, like, which is great, don't get me wrong, but like, who's the new artist that's on the scene? We're like, whoa, fuck, that's like blowing
cool.
something new away.
I mean, the one that comes to mind is Fred Again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you've heard one Fred Again song, you've heard most of them.
Yeah.
Because it's just a repetitive sample over a house sort of beat, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I heard someone say at the moment the big artists and bands in the scene at the moment are just placeholder artists.
Okay.
So Royal Otis was one that came up.
Yeah.
They're obviously really big at the moment, and I think they're quite polarizing in that, yeah, they do great covers, but their original music, people either think it's great, or people go, oh, like, I just don't get the hype.
Yeah.
But they're at the size they are because they're just sort of trending.
Yeah.
But their style of music has been consistent through the Australian scene for probably the best part of 10 years.
Well, I mean, like, I would say a Royal Otis album is not that far removed from like a Jungle Giants album in 2010 or 2011.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing festival goers and ticket buyers get fatigued of the repetition of it because festivals are going down the gurgler.
Yeah.
No one's really buying tickets to shows unless they're diehard fans. Like, yeah, I just think there's no new sound coming at the moment.
I have a little list of ones I think could be candidates.
Yep.
So I think, is it the return of rock stuff to pop in the way of like Olivia Rodrigo? She's putting guitars back front and center. It's angsty. It's emo-y without being like emo.
Yeah.
Like it's still pop music, but it's got those flashes of like pop punk, emo and stuff like that. It even at some points flashes of like metal. She's never gone full metal. Like she's never, she
does like little screams.
She throws a little scream in, but the guitars are definitely turned right up, the distortion's on, that kind of stuff. Is it, and this one's been going for a while, so I think if it's going to be representative of the sound, it's the early part of the decade, that disco revival that like Dua Lipa had really ridden the wave on.
Yep.
Like that real, like straight up, like could have been a Bee Gees song kind of sound, like future nostalgia. Is it country? Is it Morgan Wallen?
Yeah. It's an interesting
Luke
one.
Combs?
It just feels like there's genres that are popular,
yeah,
but not globally popular.
Yeah.
There's no overwhelming trend where you hear an artist and you're like, oh, I really like that song.
Yeah.
And I could go to a concert and know
yeah
a few of their songs. I keep coming back to Ed Sheeran, but like I don't like Ed Sheeran. I don't listen to him, but I could go to his show and probably sing along to 10 or 12 songs.
Yeah, fair.
Like country is one that is growing and it'll always have it'll always be big in its own market, but I think it's a little bit like metal and dance music, where it's just a little bit too extreme for
Like mainstream.
the mainstream.
Yeah.
Because like Morgan Wallen, I love Last Night.
Yeah.
So does everyone in the world. Do I know any other songs?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
EDM, I like a couple of Fred Again songs. Don't really care about the rest of the discography.
Yeah.
And metal probably is always going to be too extreme to come into the mainstream.
Yeah. That's fair.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I've got a couple other thoughts.
Yeah, hit me.
The fact that hip hop in general is falling back. I was reading some stats recently that about 5 to 10 years ago, hip hop was over 50% of all music on the charts,
Yep.
and now it's down to about 30.
Yeah, because hip-hop's not really...
It's just it's not getting shitter or like anything like that. It's just I think people have hit like saturation point,
And then it's going to come
and then
back.
it's going to come back down, which
Yeah.
happened with rock and roll over a 30-year period.
Yeah,
like
it did.
these things happen in waves.
Yeah.
Hip hop's 50 as of this year or last year or whenever. Like, it's lived a pretty solid life cycle. Latin pop having a big explosion. Bad Bunny, Karol G, artists like that are like having a massive, especially in the States, having a massive surge.
Jojo Siwa.
Jojo Siwa. Then the one that I want to put out there, and this isn't a genre so much as, what if it's 2020s is just women at the front of pop music? Because aside from maybe Ed Sheeran, Harry Styles, Drake at a stretch,
Niall Horan.
Niall Horan. I mean, but even he's not, I wouldn't say he's big.
He's probably B list.
Maybe C.
Yeah.
Apart from like maybe 4 or 5 artists, most of the big pop stars at the moment are women.
It's a good point.
So like, is it just is less about genre and more about women as the storytellers, about the singers, about songwriters? I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it's a good point. Because when I think of probably the 5 biggest artists in the world right now, they're all women.
Yeah.
You've got like Taylor Swift, Dua Lipa, Beyonce.
Yeah.
You could throw Billie Eilish in there.
Yeah.
You'd throw SZA in there.
Yeah.
And that's 5.
I'd throw an Olivia Rodrigo in there.
Olivia Rodrigo. The only one I could see, the only like top tier male artist that I'd throw in there is Post Malone.
Yeah, Post Malone. I think Post Malone, The Weeknd, maybe.
Yeah.
Harry Styles and Ed Sheeran, and probably Drake, even though I think Drake is kind of fading out of the mainstream
like
a fair
Drake's
bit.
dropping off a bit.
But I think probably at least 4 out of those 5 are probably the big male stars.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's a big gap between
huge drop off.
the next big ones.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like there's female stars who are just there and all throughout.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good point. I think it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, next year's the halfway mark of the decade, which is terrifying.
Exactly.
But does COVID come into it at all?
I mean, it has to, because
I
it changed the way
think so.
that we experience music and discovered music and
Yeah.
went to or not went to gigs. It's definitely changed it. And the other thing I think COVID definitely finally broke like the monoculture.
Yeah.
Like you weren't going to things to talk to your mates about like, check this song out, check this movie out, check this whatever. And so everyone went into their own little corner and had their own little thing. So I think like there's no like there's still massive artists obviously that are like huge and that a lot of people love.
Yeah.
But like there's no, aside from maybe Taylor Swift, there's no artist where like everyone is in the cultural moment. And so maybe that's why there's no like sound of the moment, because
But do you think that's in itself the trend?
maybe, yeah.
Because I think that's a good point. Because whenever, well, COVID, isolated everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone found their own little niche.
Yeah.
And it seems like there are just these little clusters growing. I mean, running is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Fucking everyone all of a sudden in Australia
Yeah.
runs.
It's Run Club City.
But before COVID, everyone used to get pissed
Yeah.
and go out. Like, just the general, I don't know where I'm going with this, but
No, I'm following you.
you know what I mean? Like,
It changed our cultural touch points.
yeah, it did. And fuck, I hate running.
Yeah.
I'm never going to join a run club, but they've got a little cult, and you sort of, to pull it back to music,
It's full circle here.
we've got the blokes, the people that like going out,
Yeah.
your run clubs,
Yeah.
your music goers and your sports goers.
Mm.
They're all the little niches of the nightlife
Yes.
of Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
They're just all different genres of music, and they don't always have to, maybe they don't need to mix.
And that's fine. It's
Just
just
boring.
it is boring, and also I think in 5 years' time, whether or not in 5 years' time, maybe we still don't have a sound of the 2020s. But in 5 years' time, I think we're all going to look back and be like, what were any of us like?
What were we doing?
What were we doing? Even like if I look at my playlist now, I've never had a more diverse playlist.
No, neither.
Like stuff in there that I like 10 years ago, I'd be like, why am I listening to this? And I'm like, now I like this. I like this.
Yeah. But it also feels like there's less music coming out because it's very rare. There's nothing better than opening your new releases on a Friday, and there's just bands on bands on bands that you've been waiting for the album, you've been waiting for the song, and you've just got about 10 or 12 new songs that you've been excited to listen to all out on one day.
Yep.
It feels like those days are well gone.
Yeah, right.
And it's an album drops, or sometimes two albums from two artists drop on the same day, and then it's months waiting.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's a COVID thing or bands doing EPs and singles more now, but
possibly
the hype has sort of come out of the scene a bit.
See, for me, like, and maybe it's just a different approach or whatever. I love, like, I'm on Apple Music, I get my weekly new music discovery playlist. And I think for me, I love nothing more than the first couple will always be like high end popular artists because it's like, we'll hook you on with something big. Yeah. And then, so like maybe first 2 or 3 as someone that I'll know probably have
someone that's on high rotation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then under that, I love nothing more than going, I know none of these bands. Because that's 25 opportunities to find my new favorite song.
Yeah. So and Spotify do 2 versions of that.
Yeah, right.
Well, you've got the Discover
Too
Weekly.
Many versions.
Too many versions. Well, there's Discover Weekly every Monday.
Yeah.
Where they do a whole playlist based on your liked songs.
Yeah.
But there's not really any artists that you've saved or listened to before. So they're all new based on the algorithms of your playlist. And then you've got your release radar on Fridays, which is just full of
the shit you like.
The shit you like, tailored to you.
Yeah.
Or bands that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
That are just within the genres. But fuck, it's hit and miss sometimes.
It is. And look,
that's the fun of it.
That is the fun of it. But I think, I just don't know what the general vibe is.
Well, I'll put it to you.
Put it to me, Sam.
Who are you excited? Like, who is a band or artist that you are excited about that you think in the next 3 to 5 years, everyone will be going, fuck, they are huge?
When we say huge, are we talking like world conquering huge? Like
not world conquering.
Dua Lipa, Taylor Swift huge? Or are we talking like?
No, I'm not selling out arenas.
Okay,
but just in their niche, or they've got a little bit of crossover into other genres. Like just huge in their own right. I think it's more just like, who are you excited about?
I think
coming up,
Fred again is about to crack into the mainstream, and I think riding on his coattails. Or that's not even the right word. That makes it sound like demeaning. But in that same pod of artists, Dom Dollar, because I actually think the music he produces is better than Fred again in the sense that it's more accessible, it's slightly poppier, it's dancier.
I find it a lot catchier.
It's a lot catchier,
and it's not as repetitive.
And like, if your mum said, "Hey Samuel, what are you listening to?" and you gave her
Samuel,
Samuel. You gave her an earpod and it was Fred again.
Earpod?
Or you gave her an earpod.
Earpod? Samuel? Are you having a stroke?
Samuel, what are you listening to? You give her the earpod and it's Fred
AirPod.
Again. No, it's just, I didn't want to brand it.
We are not sponsored by that
I didn't want to brand it. It's
Although if they'd like to, our fee is enormous.
It's more than they can afford. But you give her one earpod and it's Fred again. Yeah. Or you give her an earpod and it's Dom Dollar. Your mum's going, I may not like it, but Dom Dollar is the one that I want to listen to.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you got to judge pop music sometimes. It's like, what does like the average Joe Blog on the street who knows nothing about music want to listen to?
They still listen to Fred again because, I've heard of him. My friends went to his show. Fuck. They're the ones you got to avoid.
That's true. That is true.
If someone's given the choice of Dom Dollar and Fred again, and they choose Fred again, fucking run for the hills.
Well, either they are like the most committed, like electronic, like super fan, because like I get it from a deep cut electronic sense. I think Fred again's probably a better producer.
I think he's technically a better DJ.
Yeah. But I think that Dom Dollar is making more accessible music. Yeah. Like music at a party, and don't get me wrong, I'll put on some Fred again at a party. Don't get me wrong, But at a party, you got
Yeah.
one song left. You're like, oh, you're probably going Dom Dollar.
The drops are bigger.
Bit of San Fran Disco. Fuck, no one's having a bad time with that.
But yeah, Fred
of
again's
rhyme
drops. They're like they build and build, and then there's no real moment where you're like
Yeah.
off chops, cutting shapes.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh yeah,
It's Fred again music is ecstasy music.
yeah.
You know, where you're just like, you're on the high. And it's always on the high.
I think coming up after them as well is Chase and Status. They've been around for
I was just
fucking
coming up
ages.
Having been on a roller coaster.
They've been on a roller coaster, but if Dom Dollar and Fred again are popping off, I
Yeah.
think Chase and Status will come up as well.
Yeah.
Even though I know they've been around for a long time, but Butter Done, like
Yeah.
that was everywhere. And I think if they do another song like that, it'll
Yeah.
just take it.
I think that the song projecting forward in 5 years' time, and we're looking back when we're asking the same question. I think the song of the back half of the sound of the back half of the 2020s is going to be very intense EDM, like drum and bass, jungle, deep house, almost trance kind of stuff. Like I think we're going in that direction where it's going to be the kind of music that kind of touched the mainstream in the 90s,
Yeah.
but then kind of never quite made it. I think we're going all in.
Yeah, I do too. But I still don't think it'll make the full mainstream.
I think it might, because I think we're in that phase now where it's just outside of mainstream with the most intense sounds. Then in, I reckon, 3 to 4 years' time, pop artists who have been rubbing shoulders with this kind of sound will take that sound, put
And
a
throw
nice
it-
lyrical
yeah.
melody to it, and then that'll become the mainstream.
But then that means like bands like Chase Atlantic, who have been doing that for a fair while, that moved to America because Australia doesn't get it,
Yeah.
they're going to become the fucking biggest thing
That's
ever.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say in 3 to 5 years, expect a Fred again featuring, maybe not exactly Dua Lipa, but an artist of
Yeah.
that caliber. Like, you know what I mean? Like a Dom Dollar featuring an Olivia Rodrigo. Where
Well,
they're-
Dom Dollar did one with Nelly Furtado, didn't he?
well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
like the pop vocal person
Yeah.
with the heavy EDM producer,
Yeah.
that sits together.
And that'll be the biggest song of the year, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Mine's a little bit more niche, but in the extreme world,
Yeah.
I think Knocked Loose will be the biggest thing
Yeah.
in alternative or heavy in a year's time.
Yeah.
They're very extreme, but I think people, like you said with EDM, people are, I guess,
People looking for the
they're
extreme.
gravitating to extreme.
They've been in the safe little like bubble
Yeah.
zone, and they're like, okay, we've had enough of this. What's something wild?
And something that gives me, like, as selfish as it is, and it's just the way people think, like, what's something interesting that,
Yeah.
like, what's something different that no one would expect me to listen to?
Yeah, but I mean, think of the last time that like heavy metal and like big EDM was.
That
It was the 90s. It would just come off the back of like really manufactured 80s bubblegum pop.
Yeah.
And they went like, no, fuck it. We want Nirvana. We want through new metal. We want the
Pearl
original
Jam
pop.
and
Yeah,
bloody
exactly.
Limp Bizkit and stuff. But it's like Knocked Loose. They are as extreme and heavy. Like, they are the most angry sounding band you can listen to. But there's something about them that is just like that hooks you.
Yeah.
And their breakdowns literally sound like glass breaking, which is a weird thing to say that people like. But they played Coachella,
Yeah.
like an extreme metal band with a singer that sounds like a 10-year-old girl screaming,
Yeah.
played Coachella. Like, I just think it's a sign of what's to come.
I
And
can't wait for Scissor into.
well, they played the same bill as Fred again, Skrillex, and
Quartet? No.
well, Frank
Forte.
Ocean.
Fuck me.
Yeah. Forte, yeah.
Yeah.
And Frank Ocean, but they. But I just think, yeah. So there we go. Dom Dollar, Fred again, Knocked Loose.
Yeah. The big three. The Holy Trinity, if you will.
Holy Trinity. Fred again just sampling Counting Worms by Knocked Loose.
You know what? Wouldn't hate it.
No. But I just think in those two extreme worlds, and for anyone that doesn't think those two genres are related, they're all like, there's no correlation between electronic music and metal.
Yeah.
They are the closest correlation.
It's the same thing. One's just got guitars and one's got fucking
Yeah.
synth.
There is
synths.
no two genres that have like identical parallels more than electronic music. That's so embarrassing. I forgot to mute my. Than electronic music and metal.
Even to the point where, think about what people wear to those concerts. Both
same
of them,
shit.
it's fucking stringlets with like the buffest dudes you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Fucking snapback caps.
It's
The
just
shorter shorts.
in one genre, most of them are virgins. In the other genre, most of them have just taken ket.
Yeah, exactly.
And the metal crowd is actually probably 10 times safer.
Probably.
Don't get in the pit.
Yeah, it depends how in the
Just
pit you are.
do what I do. And then this one.
Yeah, when it's a particularly heavy breakdown.
So, friend of the show, Dan Devon, and I go to heavy shows quite frequently together. And if you don't know our friend Dan, which you probably don't,
It'd be weird if they did.
he's he goes to court a lot and he wears suits. So put two and two together. He's a barrister.
He's a
barista.
Actually, that I would be defaming him. I probably don't want to go that path. It's
No.
fine.
But he's a man of the law.
Yeah.
And whenever we go to metal shows, he comes straight from work, which means he's wearing, I reckon I've seen him wear a 3-piece suit.
He's got his loafers on, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got his black leather shoes on. He's got a jacket on to match. He's got the matching pants. And he stands at the back. Because he doesn't want to crumple his suit, he stands with his hands in his pockets, stiff as a board, and just nods his head. And then when there's like you said, a particularly heavy breakdown, he just looks at me and does this.
That's filthy.
That's it. I'm like, are you a hitman? Like, do you have a pistol in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? Yeah. But anyway.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say, if it's heavy, stink face it.
I would say, that was a pretty serious.
That was in depth.
That was an in-depth, serious musical discussion.
I liked it. We don't do that very often.
We know every so often we'll do the best things on the Shrek soundtrack. Best things on the Shrek soundtrack. Then we'll do the future of music.
Really shows that we're educated. That is going to be impossible to cut down into a social spec.
Fucking luck.
I can't wait for that.
Well, I suppose we should throw over to we got her Dark Hours on the show.
Dark Hours. I don't know about. I wasn't in this chat. I wasn't involved.
Chat. No, but it was with a Sam.
That's good.
Sam from Dark Hours. So weirdly enough, it doesn't happen often. Dark Hours have not dropped any material at all. So we are catching them prior to their debut.
They could be the next big thing.
That does come up, trust me.
Dua Lipa Dark Hours.
It's members of the bands Breakaway, Sound of Seasons, and yours truly.
Sound of Seasons is Marcus Bridges' old band, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. From North Lane.
And
each of their individual projects before they came together were all kind of in that spectrum between like pop punk and like kind of emo punk.
Yeah.
And then they've come together and gone, let's do something heavy. And it's pretty sick. Their first single is it makes a statement straight away. Like, it doesn't fuck around. It's called Eye of the Storm. But let's throw to me and not you.
Do you want me to
Sam.
throw to you?
Yeah, you throw to me and Sam. That'd be great. Hang on, I'm catching.
Not in the studio.
We'll blur it. Well, joining us on the show ahead of their debut track is Sam from the Sydney band Dark Hours. Welcome to the show, Sam. How are you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's like, before we dive in, it's not often that we get a band before their debut, so I'm a bit excited to see where the conversation can lead us, to sort of see how the inner workings of something before a project before it launches. So
you mean like in terms of if it goes well or tanks completely?
I mean, if you want to frame it that way, but I meant just in terms of even like getting a frame of mind just before something like this launches. Often we're chatting to bands who either are a couple tracks in, maybe they've got an EP or something dropping. There's a bit of retrospect on a few things, but to go in entirely clean is like, it's all promise, it's all potential. I'm very excited to see where it leads.
Yeah, I guess from our standpoint, it's pretty nerve-wracking right now, because
100%.
I guess for all of us, it's not like we're starting completely fresh. Like, we're not new to the scene. We've all been in past projects and stuff, so I guess that carries a certain amount of expectation on how it's gonna go as well. So we're trying to manage that.
I'm sure it's very nerve wracking, but it's so exciting. Like anything could happen here. This could be, in a couple weeks time, we could be sitting back down to talk about, the biggest song that's just launched and taken over the scene. Who knows? I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and for most of us, it's been, I don't know, really since pre-COVID that we've done anything musically. So I think that's really going to be the best feeling when it comes out, is to just be like, all right, we're active again. We're actually doing things, not hiding away in the studio, getting shit done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Let's dive in. First question is the same question we run every week. What have you been listening to? What's been spinning in your playlists on Spotify or whatever you're using?
Man, I'm so interested to know if you've had anyone with such a mixture of stuff going on, mainly because I have a son that's almost 2 years old. So, so legit right now, the last song played was Baby Shark by Pink Fong.
At least it's not the Coco Melon version. I'd be kicking you off the podcast if that was happening.
Oh no, because Coco Melon's number 5. It literally goes like Pink Fong, Architects, Blippi, Bad Omens, Coco Melon. Like that's legit what's going on in my household right now.
Look, as I mentioned before, you guys do have your debut track, Eye of the Storm, coming up. And I suppose before we get stuck too much into the track, I want to talk about the band, how you guys came together. You kind of gave us a bit of a hint at the top there that this isn't anyone in the band's first rodeo. You're all kind of, a mix and match from a few different outfits across the Sydney scene. Do you want to kind of give us a bit of a how and why you guys came together as Dark Hours?
Yeah, I mean, really the whole thing. I mean, like, I come from a band called Breakaway, which is probably more in the emo rock kind of genre. I've always had like an aggressive tone to my voice. The whole idea of starting the band was that actually came from our bass player Jason, who used to be in Sound of Seasons with Marcus from North Lane. After that ended, he sort of started asking me, "Hey, do you want to do something heavy?" Funnily enough, at the time, I wasn't really into heavy music, so I was like, "Oh, well, let's talk when we get the chance, man." At the same time, I had Kane, who comes from like a pop punk band called Forever Ends Here, that he plays in with his brother, who's always been like obsessed with Parkway Drive and any heavy band possible. So we never really had the chance to drum in a band that was like the genre that he was passionate about. So I had both of them in my ear. And then I guess sort of when COVID hit, we stopped doing the Breakaway thing, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll listen to some heavy music. Like, give me some songs. And then like, I was familiar with like Bring Me the Horizon, right? That was probably as far as I dabbled. And then they sent me through what was it, Animals by Architects, I think. And I was like, oh, you can do it like that? Okay. Yeah, okay. That makes sense to me. Funnily enough, after that I got a whole lot heavier, and yeah, and then it was really just the three of us for probably, I don't know, the first 6-7 months. And then I sort of got wind that Lockie had left Yours Truly. He was chilling out for a bit, didn't really want to play music at the time. And then we ran into each other at a show, got talking, and yeah, he was. I honestly asked him expecting a flat out like, "Nah, dude, I'm done." And he was like, "Yeah, dude, call me." So
it's meant to be in that case.
Something like that. No, look, it's a really good group of guys. Everyone's really on the same page, which in a band is really hard to achieve. And everyone's sort of got the same goals and visions and on the same page creatively. So it's actually been probably the easiest writing and recording process I've ever been a part of,
Yeah.
which is great because I get really stressed.
That's fair enough then. I mean, the easier the better, I guess. I mean, as you kind of were hinting at there as well, that like that's a real spread. That, the bands that everyone has come from over time is a real spread of styles and genres. I mean, obviously you all kind of sit within that heavy, pop punk to metal, spectrum.
Balance, yeah.
What kind of? I mean, obviously apart from just this shared love or passion for heavy music, what kind of did you bond musically over when you was probably first having a couple of jams just to see how you fit together?
I around the whole Architects, I Prevail type stuff. Definitely the latest Bad Omens record was like a really big one for everyone. Um, Unfortunately, not Blippy. I did try.
It's let's never say never is all I'm saying.
It's an acquired taste. The more you listen, the more you're willing to put up with it.
I think there's a really good, metal Baby Shark cover to be had somewhere in there.
You know what? Someone actually brought that up to me last week. They're like, "You're gonna do it, right?" I was like, "Do what?" They're like, Baby Shark heavy.
Look, let's talk about the David track, Eye of the Storm. It's making a statement out of the gate. It doesn't fuck around, let's be honest. It starts with these thick guitars. It starts with a really bouncy as fuck bass line, a breakbeat almost kind of sound on the drums. I suppose, aside from wanting to set the tone early and give listeners a real sort of snapshot of what Dark Hours is going to be, why this track? What was the track what was behind this track that you thought this is the one that's going to sort of kick us off?
I think we listened back to. I think right now we have about six songs down. And some of them start with vocals. Some like we really wanted a riff to kick it all in. We wanted people to hear the first 10 seconds and know exactly the vibe that they were expecting to hear after that.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like sometimes when you start, especially on like a soft vocal, you don't really know what genre it's gonna lead into. I just think it gives more of an impact. It's more in people's face. And I don't know. I get enjoyment out out of that. The opening riff without the drums, and then suddenly it smashes through your speakers. I think that's great. That's how I like to listen to music.
Yeah, when everything lands in that first, after that first kind of those few seconds of guitar, it lands heavy. Like it doesn't. There's no like gradual, welcome to the show. It's just like, here we are. Here's what's fucking happening. Let's go.
Yeah. I think it also like it shows because of where all four of us have come from. It shows instantly, hey, we're doing something different to what we previously were.
Yeah,
and
100%.
that was also really, really important to us.
I suppose that is a pretty big consideration for you guys. Obviously, you'll be drawing in from fan groups that you guys have had over time with different projects, different bands. What if there's one takeaway that you want, a Breakaway fan or a Yours Truly fan or any music fan really to take away from Dark Hours? What's the kind of like mission statement that you want to like lay out with the track?
I mean, honestly, the brief in my head was epic heavy.
I think it ticks that box.
Like let's get the most energetic riff we can with the biggest sounding chorus that we can. That was the goal. I'd never really screamed properly before, so that like the bridge of the song is really like me learning to scream. So I didn't want to have it too much throughout the entire song in case everyone hates my scream. Let's just give them a little test and see how we go. But yeah, epic heavy was really what we were going for.
Yeah, and look, you've led me nicely into my next question, because I want to take a moment to talk about that breakdown and then that solo that go kind of back to back with each other. The solo, it's sounding like something between like Tom Morello's Tremolo, like in any number of fucking Rage Against the Machine songs, maybe some Limp Bizkit scratching in there from DJ Lethal or something. Like, when you were kind of sitting down to work out the textures and the sounds that you were going to put into this, what what led you to those sort of conclusions? Because it's just, I mean, it's a combination of things that I'm familiar with, but things that I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming within the track.
Yeah, so the bridge is interesting. So when it comes to writing, I'm pretty lazy before we go into the studio. Like I try to get my verses and my chorus there and then sort of feel it out as the production comes together in like its final form to see, okay, where are we going to take this bridge? What's going to happen? So when we were kind of stands back to when we were looking at who we wanted to produce the record as well. Um, we've we've all worked with various producers a lot in common. We kind of wanted to work with someone who none of us had worked with before. Um, Craig Wilkinson, who's from a band called Red Hook. He's been a really close friend of mine for a long time now, and I sort of followed his production as he was learning and as he started to get better, and then just literally as we were having the conversation, like, oh, who are we going to work with? He sent me a Red Hook song that he had produced. He's like, dude, I did it. Like, they've let me have one. Here we go.
They let me in. They let me behind the desk.
Yeah. But I mean, like, he's so creative as a musician and prolific, like, insanely. And I really like his sound choices. And I also really like that for him, there's literally no boundaries. He may throw some weird shit in there sometimes, and you're like, oh, maybe we bring it back a little. But he's willing to go, like, literally anywhere. So having someone like him in the room and overlooking it and just being like, just do what feels most naturally to you guys. In terms of guitars and that solo is like him and Lockie just talking about like, what doesn't matter what the part is. Let's just do exactly what is going to feel good for us.
Yep.
And I don't know what fucking planet they were on, but that's what they came up with.
When I first sort of sat down and listened to the track, I was like, is it a guitar? Like, you know, it's so non-guitar that I was like, it could be a synth. Someone could have just like really fucked around with some Pro Tools settings on a synth and done it on like a MIDI keyboard. But after a couple of listens, like, nah, it has to be guitar.
There's definitely a guitar in there. There's definitely some subtle hints of Craig in the background there with his production. No, I remember watching Lockie do not only that song but all the songs, and was sort of like, well, the first thing I said to him after he finished tracking was like, hey man, don't ever break your fucking hands, because trying to find someone else who's going to be able to play some of these parts, you've really fucked us.
Insuring the hands for millions of dollars just to make sure.
Well, you know, we haven't succeeded or tanked yet, so we'll see.
Maybe this is the time to do it. And then, you know, if you do tank, just get into punch a wall and be like, well, we insured him.
Well, gee, I got some thinking to do.
There's always another way. I mean, you mentioned you got 6-ish tracks in the can, ready to roll. Can you give us a little teaser, a little moose boosh of some of the what else we can expect on some of those other tracks?
Oh man, a lot of variety. I don't think there's a single song on there that is sort of down the same route. We have things that are, I guess, a bit more mellow verses with huge choruses. That's sort of a thing that I've always sort of tried to do. That's just a personal taste of mine. Craig kind of pushed me to go outside of the boundaries of like, yeah, that's where you're comfortable, but what's a type of song that you've always wanted to make that you've never had the opportunity to do because it just wouldn't suit Breakaway? Like, what are you going to do? And the concept that I came up with was like, what if Chester Bennington sung like a Knocked Loose type song?
Sick.
And so, yeah, there's a very different song on there called Brain Freeze that I'm like, that's the one that I'm so excited to release.
Is there some barking? If we're going Knock Loose, are we barking in it?
There is no barking.
Oh,
There
you heard it
were
here
there
first,
were
though.
there were various conversations around should there be barking, should there not.
They're the important conversations of our time. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. But in the end, we decided, hey, let's let them do them.
There's some pretty intense meowing, but that's separate. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think he's probably more like a Labrador, like a bigger breed of dog. I probably sound more like a cavoodle.
something that's like yippee at the park, it's
Something that's not threatening.
but bringing it to the stage, I like that. Given the
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, are there any plans to bring Dark Hours to a live stage? In the near future.
Yeah, look, absolutely. There is some stuff that we're working on behind the scenes, probably maybe later this year. We are looking into it. Probably more likely next year. We kind of we want to get. I guess we've sort of got to the stage where we're almost at the 6 song mark. So that's your first EP. We really want to go hard with the writing and try and get to the point where like we can release a record almost straight after that. Which then also makes touring a lot easier because once you start, you don't have to take a big break to go write again,
Yeah, 100%.
And I think also one of my like I really like what we've done with these 6 songs, and one of my biggest fears post being in Breakaway was the gap of time in between writing and recording, and it can change your mindset, and it can change what type of songs you write and how you approach it. And like I currently fear that. I really like what we're doing, so I want to just keep going with it as far as I can until I guess I probably burn out. And then go do the touring side of thing more often anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
we definitely want to play live, like ASAP.
Yeah.
If the dream scenario came up in a week, we'd be jumping on it in 2 seconds. But we're really taking our time to get this project right, as opposed to just doing things as quickly as possible.
Yeah, 100%. And it's there's the old saying of you have your whole life to write your first album, and then your second one is done in a couple of weeks. I suppose when it comes to a new project, it's like that kind of times a million, where you've put what you probably felt like was a lot of your creativity into Breakaway, and then to come back for a second project, you're sitting down, planning it out more, having been on that ride a couple of times, figuring out what you want to do and where it wants to go.
Absolutely. And I think there's like a maturity thing as well. Like I guess when you first start your first band, you're like, yeah, we just got to get stuff out. We got to go play shows. We got to do this. We got to do that. You don't really think about, is what we're doing the right thing? Are we where we need to be to actually start growing a fan base? Are we, whereas now we've all done all that sort of stuff before. So now we know, hey, if we need to delay the release by 2 months, let's delay that. Let's take our time. Let's get it right, because a year from now, we're not going to give a shit whether we release something in March or if we released it in May. It's going to be, how did that release go? How did it sound? What did we, what were we able to achieve?
You get one chance to make a first impression, make it a good one.
Well, as I said, epic heavy, smash bang in your face.
Bit of a change of pace. Word on the street is that you're a bit of a fan of dinosaurs, Sam. And I wanted to know, will the T-Rex be making it off the ink, and maybe a T-Rex suit when you hit the live stage for the first time?
You know what? If it was just up to me, I could see that happening. I can see Jason turning to me and going, "Oh, you're so embarrassing." But I am scheduled to get some more dinosaur tattoos, though. That is a thing.
Look, I think that's a good, sticking to it and forcing the band into it could be a good way to go.
Absolutely. Like, the one thing that I do, have the majority of the input in terms of like I write it, and they can kind of make comments and critique is the lyrics. Now, if I can get prehistoric in there,
I think we can go further than that. I think we can get some Jurassic, Triassic, Cretaceous, Mesoeric, all those. We're getting deep into it, I think.
man, you're talking to someone who's not going to disagree.
I think that, well, I mean, look, The Hives, one of the best albums, Tyrannosaurus Hives, I think is
That's true.
a good starting ground, a platform. If you need to bring it to the band, be like, look, we're following in good footsteps here.
Dude, I completely forgot about that band, but they are so good live.
Fuck yeah.
Like, unbelievably good live.
They
Not a band that any of my friends would ever think that I ever listened to, but fuck me, they were good.
One of those, I think there was a meme going on TikTok recently that was like, you had the Strokes, and then you had the Swedish Strokes, which were the Hives, and then you had the Australian Strokes, who were the Vines. Like, they all just kind of rolled out as the same model, and they all fucking rule.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
I suppose, final question, you touched on it a couple of times. It's a big learning curve for you as a vocalist, to make the step from where you were in Breakaway to where you are in Dark Hours. I suppose, what do you think is been the biggest learning curve for you collectively as a band? Is there a lot of voices in the room when you're doing these productions because you're all kind of veterans of the scene? Is it a democratic process? I suppose is probably the simple question.
Everyone kind of has been really good at giving each other space to breathe and do what they think is going to be the right thing for their instrument or their part. I guess if anything sort of, sounds completely fucked, we're not going to be like, yeah, dude, great job. We're like, yeah, let's keep that one. I think Craig also does a really good job in terms of managing everyone's emotions in the room and how we go about things. He's got a really great mannerism on how he talks to people. He's very encouraging. He also offers a completely different perspective to what you'd be thinking in that moment, which kind of makes you think differently as well. I mean, yeah, Craig may well be the reason why it's been such a smooth process.
He's kept the band together. He's the fifth Beatle.
Yeah, he's 100% like the fifth guy. Like I speak to him like daily. It'd be weird if I didn't speak to Craig on a day, just about life.
Just to ponder the universe.
Yeah, there's not much that I do without running it by Craig to see his perspective.
Well, look, Eye of the Storm is the debut single from Dark Hours, which is dropping on May 3rd. So listeners, get ready to tune in wherever you get your music. Follow the band in case that dream gig does come up next week and they're on stage. But otherwise, just keep an eye out for when those dates get announced. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time and having a chat with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a bunch of fun, man.